Good afternoon, everyone. So I'd like to begin by just telling you about three things that I'm really grateful for today. First of all, I'm grateful to be standing here alive today and for the care that I was the recipient of very recently. Secondly, I'm grateful to have known so many Christian artists who are both professionals and who are also committed to Jesus. There was a time when I was working professionally when I did not know a single Christian artist. And still can't quite believe that, but kind of speaks to the environment I grew up in a little bit. Thirdly, I'm grateful that MDC has allowed me the opportunity to show their work in my own school. I'm proud to be associated with them, and I'm grateful to them for coming some considerable distances to share their work with all of you. Now, in this company, in this room, when we're discussing the portrayal of landscape, I'm pretty sure that we're all in agreement here that this land we inhabit is a gift of God. One small corner of an incredible creation. We also probably believe, along with most arts theologians, that the creative process that brought all this into being is empowered by God's Spirit. Arts theologians also repeatedly account for our creative artistry as artists as an agency of God's Spirit as well. Looking at the work in these four exhibitions that are in the school right now, it's pretty obvious that this reveals itself in some very, very different ways. The whole perception, interpretation, design, and craftsmanship process comes out really differently in the hands of different artists, all aided by God's Spirit. Today, I just want to suggest that we might very well ask, how does this Spirit accomplish this? Is it all just magic? I was kind of raised to believe that that's what it was. You have a gift, it just happens. Poof. And I want to say to you, it's not that simple. In fact, I believe that a lot of variables are involved. Here's a short list. The landscape of origin that we all come from. Genetics in family histories. Cultures of origin that we all come from. Some people come from the Caribbean, from Europe, indigenous cultures, and from Asian cultures, and they're all different. They all contribute to how imagery is formed in different ways. It includes relational histories in family, which I think is actually way more relevant than anyone talks about. And then there's the kind of training you get as an artist. And of course, practice, 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 practice. None of this happens by accident. It takes a lot of work. There's years of design practice behind all these images. They all play a part in shaping us. But I want to come back to the first one. I've been teaching art now to people for over 20 years, from little kids and from all kinds of cultures. And I've seen how landscapes we grow up in shape the people. I've seen how landscapes shape these people. They get inside you on a perceptual level and shape how you see, and in fact, what you see. In the students that I've had, they come from coastal regions in a country. They come from the plains of the United States and Canada, where there's more sky than there is land. They come from mountains, from urban settings, from woodlands. They all possess all these different areas possess different spatial dynamics and ways of seeing, different kinds of light, different senses of scale, and vastly different kinds of textures. It gets inside you and shapes your dreams, your cognitive formation of metaphor over time, your association of meaning attached to senses of place, of security and threat, all kinds of things. God's process of shaping the artist is, at least in part, highly developmental and experiential over time. This is another reason why the myth of the autonomous, independent artist is precisely that. It's just a myth. There is no such thing as everyone's on his own. We're all connected to land. And as much as certain strains of Christian thought, including the one I was raised in, like to ask us to pretend to be unattached to the physical world, every artist knows, especially landscape artists, that embodied emotional attachment to place is crucial to being both a Christian and being an artist. I'm extremely happy today to celebrate such committed voices as you see here, voices of excellence that all bring unique interpretations to our community for us to enter and to walk around and re-inhabit in some way, because artists are inviting you to go inside their images and walk around and experience what they've seen. Ela celebrates the openness and space of our wilderness, having come from the polluted gray of communist Poland. Jeanette brings us intense emotional color of the pastoral landscapes that are all around us here. Heidi gives us a fluid, almost molten depiction of surfaces in stone and fused glass that is as much textural as it is spatial. Doug, well, he exploits moving landscapes in sky and the climactic theater of that. And just to add, Liz and I also look at landscape surfaces, but in a more intimate, symbolic way. The point is that we're all different, and just as we have many God-breathed biblical authors working with different filters, here we have 4 more artists who work extremely hard in their unique voices to speak with elegance and mastery. So I want to thank you all for welcoming them to McMaster Divinity College.
So Ela, will you come forward? And for each of you artists, if you would just say where you come from, come on up, Ela, and where you're located and where you do your work. All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, James, for the opportunity to present my work here at McMaster Divinity College, and for the chance to meet people interested in art, for the experience of the bond between us that happens around the values manifested in art. In my case, this is realistic art based on the opening up to the world, which for me is surely God's creation. As illustration, I selected what you can see here and on the show, paintings from the series Geoffrey Lake's Intermissions. Intermission is a moment of break. This is case caused by admiration from the beauty, by the opportunity to reflect on harmony and clarity, on the fullness of the experience richness. Looking at the world, we can recall the words of Genesis, and God saw everything he had made, and behold, it was very good. Or in another version, God looked at everything he had made and was very pleased. One of the greatest philosophers, St. Thomas Aquinas, said, "Beautiful are those things that are pleasing when being perceived." And he gave more or less this characteristic to realism. I'm not ashamed to admit that my mind is nourished by the senses, that many of the things I think I owe to what I see. And I believe that the phenomena provided by the senses becoming the object of consideration and study cause my reason to know creation and to know God, the creator. Truthfully, it should be said that this great man reconciled religion with reason. At the same time, he directed reason toward experimental science and emphasized that senses are the windows of our soul. And our reason has a divine right nourished by facts, to transcend and to know its creator. In this way, he affirms our freedom based on the light of truth, which gives each one of us the certainty of our judgments without having to refer to authorities other than our conscious experience of the world. Less than 2 weeks ago, we had the Feast of the Epiphany, that is, the revelation of God in creation. God made himself known to simple shepherd and to people of science who by exploring the universe were led to God. So no matter what is the order of gaining this understanding or our way through the revelation, thanks to our perception, we come to the awareness of truth, of goodness, and of beauty. We come to these values through the same or very similar process, through comprehensive and in-depth cognition, perception of harmony, balance, and equilibrium, through clear and explicit understanding. I share a point of view on art as a cognitive field of man. Our visual perception may be classified as cognitive since getting to the truth is here the main factor. The artist discovers the coherence of reality. I presenting here the landscapes, but when we shift our subject from nature or still life into the portrait or genre art or historical or social issue, in a similar way, we discover interpersonal relations and the natural value of human interactions and human community. Separation and dispersal are not only crippling our abilities, but as well may cause suffering. Coming to know the truth about the essential unity of life, of all life, brings relief and is good and beautiful. Art understood this way is the vocation and essential need of every human being, coming from our drive toward beauty, truth, and goodness. And in this way, transcending toward God. Presented as the last slide picture. Thank you. Is featured in the recent issue of Fate today. A free copy of which I like to share with you will be in my room. In a conclusion, I also would like to share an anecdote about this picture, which I have submitted to a few jurors show last year. The picture was rejected everywhere. It was sent under its original title as a cross over devil's punch. Bow. Yet it was accepted where the title did not mention the word cross. The mainstream culture gives priority to feelings, quite often among different feelings or different people. Our most reasonable option is to keep our reason for ourselves. So, if we accept different truth, different ideas of good and beauty, could we still transcend? Thank you very much. I'm waiting for your answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you so much. Where are you located? Where do you work from? In Hamilton. All right, great. Yes, and as you maybe can tell, Ella originally comes from Poland, right? And so this is not her first language, so it's not the most comfortable thing she's ever done, but it was beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah. Heidi, where are you? Heidi Brannan, come on up and share with us some of your, and I think we have a few pieces of yours that will be behind as well.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. There
They
we
say
are.
we don't need to move it, but we think we need to move it.
I figured that would be the case.
Come close, come close.
Okay, I'm committed now. first up, I just want to say what a ridiculous, incredible honor it is to be able to exhibit my work alongside such talented comrades. Their work is extraordinary, and I just really trust you guys are going to take some time to study it, explore it, and appreciate it. So I come into this as a sculptor, right? Stone and glass. So for me to do a landscape, like that's significantly more flat than what I would usually do. But nevertheless, I bring texture into it. So that's why you will see layers. You will see glass that has been cast and a few other combinations of things. First of all, I just love nature, okay? Two themes we're going to explore here in my work today, for this selection anyway, is water and light. They're going to be common. When I go for a hike in the woods, if I stumble across a stream, my hands are in there and woohoo, my day just got filled up. Like, this is where it's at for me. I consider the outdoors and the glories of nature, like it's kind of like an on-ramp to the presence of God for me. And that might be something that's I explore more deeply on my own if I'm just by myself, but even just casually passing through, it influences me. It fills me up a little bit more so that when I go back to the concrete world, I'm in better shape. So some of these images, they're really very simple, playful, just expressions of glimpses I've had when I've been out there somewhere. They're not necessarily approached with the same depth or expectation that I would have put on some of my other sculptural pieces, but some of them have a bit more story. So I'm going to do some explaining. So this piece that you're looking at right now, water lilies, what we have here is cast glass over watercolor, sort of two dimensions that you see going on there. This is I like to combine materials. So this is an exploration I've been doing for a while. And I appreciate how they play against each other and perhaps even allude to different dimensions. A clearer focus as we get closer into the center of things. The next image does the same thing. There's more water, more boats. I like to be surrounded with water, as you can see. And this piece, Regatta, also shows cast glass around the exterior part of the image with watercolor more centrally. Now, as a glass artist, I love light. I can't help it. When it pours through colored glass, it makes everything just pop and come alive. And so I had to try this out. I had to try out, okay, what happens if there is no watercolor behind this? And I've done a number of panels that are strictly cast glass landscapes. The next one we were going to look at, there we go. This is one of a series of 3 where I started with a watercolor painting and I said, well, what would happen if? And so this is pure cast glass. I approach it like paint with a little bit of alcohol ink included. So this is something I'm playing with, but essentially each of these images are places, environments I've been to that I appreciate exploring that somehow just have spoken to me, the whole environment. You can't really get into all of it, but there's just pieces of it that have filled me up in those moments, and I take them with me. The little one that we just looked at a minute ago, those ones are small. They're deliberately small. The one with the boat. They're only about 7 inches or so, and they're meant to be intimate, and they're meant to draw you in. And I consider them a little bit more like elaborate postcards. So the last piece here is the exact opposite of all of that. This is oil, and it's vast and wide. And I did this last year. I spent a number of years in a very dark season. the darkness felt wide and expansive. And like it went on and on and on. But I became very grateful for every pencil-thin shaft of light that managed to break through to my thirsty soul. I call this piece Remembering the Light, Remembering Me. And in the middle of that, I'm grateful that the Lord reached out in my darkness and that he showed himself to be much more vast than my idea of darkness and reminded me to just breathe and be and know him. So I expect to do more of these, and I look forward to hearing your comments and questions as we tour around later.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Jeanette. I live in Paris, Ontario, which is only half an hour west of us. And a lot of the work that I do depicts where I live, because I find beauty in any landscape that I encounter. So even the ones that are not that spectacular. They haven't got spectacular mountains. They haven't got spectacular waterfalls. We don't have spectacular anything, but we have farmland, we have weeds, we have beautiful barns, we have very simple things, and in the simple things, that's where I see the beauty. Someone's have asked me one time, why do you paint? And as a painter, I sort of go, why do I not? And I cannot not. As a creative person, I have to do this because that's how God has gifted me. That would be to say to a singer that they can't sing anymore, or to someone who is a nurse not to care anymore, or someone who's a data analyst not to be clever anymore. So why do I do it? It's because God has gifted me this way, and in his gift to me, my gift as a painter to the people around me is to show what I see in all the things that are around me and how I see God in those things. Currently what I do is landscape, but I used to do a lot of human form as well, and I do still life as well, just because there's beauty in everything. But currently it's landscape. And the way that I do it is, a lot of the thing that I do is plein air painting. So I literally go out, take my easel with me and paint on the spot. And I respond to a place and a time and a season to what is in front of me. And that includes winter, by the way. So I look like Michelin Man when I go out. And my hand freezes and my paint freezes, but it is the most enjoyable thing ever. I love the song that we've just sung, Oh, the deep, deep love of Jesus. And when you read the lyrics, it speaks about the heavens, it speaks about the land, it speaks about how what we see around us brings us back to that deep, deep love. And that is how I experience it. I paint the simple things to allow others to see the beauty of what God has created. And in that way, maybe transcend for them the ordinary into the extraordinary. When I paint, I've tried to paint a place that brings peace and a time of rest. Because in the lives that a lot of us live, the margins have become smaller and smaller. And I think we do need the margin. And I am extremely thankful for God to have been given the gift of creativity, because what it means that is, when I'm out painting, I have 2.5 hours of mindfulness, of observing, of recording what it is that I see. And I'm not saying that every single painting becomes a masterpiece. Sometimes the end result is that I wipe it clean. but I've had 2.5 hours of observing and seeing God's beauty. And I talked about, weeds. Have you ever looked at a dandelion and at dandelion seeds and how they grow? It is absolutely spectacular. Have you ever looked at the feather of a bird? God invented Velcro before we did. It's just amazing when you start looking at the tiny, tiny details of what God has given to us to look at and to look for, and as a result, see him. Sorry, I wrote a couple of little things down. So painting for me is a very slow way of recording what is in front of me. It's not a photograph. It's a very slow process, but as a result, you see more. So if I can say anything to anyone, is pick up a pencil rather than your camera and try to record what is in front of you, because when you do, you will see God's beauty very easily. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. That's beautiful. And Douglas, would you please come? Yesterday, I was hoping today would be sunny, both for Heidi's art up in my office and for this art in here. Yesterday, I was in here and took pictures of all these pieces because the sun was hitting all these on the side and there were reflections on the other side. It was pretty spectacular, but it's a pretty spectacular day too. Anyways, please come on.
Good afternoon. Give you a background of location. First of all, born in Vancouver, British Columbia, raised near Calgary for my first 14 years. Parents were transferred down here. 60 countries later, I find myself in Prince Edward County, and we've been there for nearly 10 years now. I have my gallery studio there. First of all, thank you for the invitation to hang my paintings here in your sanctuary and this chance to speak for a few moments. I've been asked to speak on why I paint what I paint. C.S. Lewis, author of the Chronicles of Narnia, Oxford professor, stated, "I believe in Christianity as I believe that the sun is risen." You've all heard this before. Not only because I see it, but because I see everything by it. G.K. Chesterton, friends and colleagues of Lewis and Tolkien, have given us the wonder of using artistic imagination as a means of painting to truth with their nuanced writings. Chesterton writes, "To be thankful is the highest form of thought, and that gratitude is happiness doubled by wonder. Thanklessness, then, must be the lowest form of thought, and ingratitude is discontentment, bankrupted of wonder." Welcome to my studio. There, working through a painting is physically, mentally, and emotionally demanding, and for me, a spiritual act. It is not a trite plaything, but involves intense involvement on many levels. This is why my wife warns me by ringing a little bell before entering the studio. I am in a far-off country, wandering multiple paths of any sudden interruption can result in a tailspin of PTSD overreaction. And the walls sometimes maybe are evidence of that. The bell helps me come back to a single point. The actual act of putting paint on canvas is almost subconscious, as simultaneous, disparate thoughts and techniques dance their many forms from my imagination through my brush, towels, or rags. Some of those thoughts meander back to a childhood surrounded in institutional and family abuses that occurred living for over 11 years in an iron-fisted, enclosed, quote, Christian community in Western Canada. The trauma from that time has affected my life and work until this day. My early paintings reflected that dark side and were an expression of unresolved issues that presented themselves with symptoms such as depression and anger. Today, after many years of hard work, my life and paintings attempt at presenting more light and hope. John Ruskin, the famed British watercolorist and artistic companion of J.M.W. Turner, said, "The greatest thing a human soul ever does in this world is to see something and tell what it saw in a plain way. Hundreds of people can talk for one who can think, but thousands can think for one who can see," unquote. My purpose, therefore, as an artist is, quote, "to make aware, to encourage people to take the time to truly savor and care for what they see, and the thought that the part of my personal act of making art is to be a conduit of pointing toward the Creator. I personally am a follower of who C.S. Lewis describes as Aslan, or the Word, one who was and yet still is. John 1:1-3 in the New Testament states, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made." This, of course, is Jesus of Nazareth, the transcendent God becoming flesh to enter with us into our deepest pain and joy. Caring for the creation is a mandate given to all humankind. I stand with that part of my faith to see the natural world as something to be cherished and nurtured. We are to be good, quote, gardeners in the broadest sense of the word. I am a wanderer. I am a broken struggler. I am in process. I am a fighter, having chosen hope when despair attempted complete desolation. This is typical. I'm thoughtful, pushing back the obnoxious simplistic. I'm an artist who observes and portrays beauty, both darkness and light. I'm a poet, a lover of all the senses who gains freedom in savoring them well. I am called to shed light, and there is light. Elizabeth Barrett Browning states, "Earth's crammed with heaven, and every common bush afire with God. But only he who sees takes off his shoes. The rest sit round and pluck blackberries." Soli Deo Gloria SDG is Latin for glory to God alone. It has been used by artists such as Johann Sebastian Bach and Frederick Handel, signifying the work was produced as an act of praising God. I've copied their idea and have had many who've asked what the letters SDG mean when placed near my signature. For me, each painting is a small human attempt at reflecting light and expressing gratitude back to the light giver, Jesus, the only incarnation of the Creator God in human history. My hope is that some of my, quote, I ams will push through the rim of life's mist with the gleam of atmospheric light. Maybe it will encourage some struggler in the darkest depths to persevere while seeking help. For others, it will at least give some insight into my purposes of, quote, making aware. Part of this journey was producing a 160-page full-color coffee table book, a compilation of some anecdotal life recollections, psalms, if you will. There are 61 short essays and poems found on the facing pages from over 100 paintings included in the book. That was sort of my COVID project. A copy of the book is back there, is here, and you're welcome to take a peek and look through it. And if interested in purchasing one, you can get in touch with me. And finally, I've predicated on the book. I've actually, within the last couple of weeks, have started a blog like a million other people, but nevertheless, www.radiancethroughtherain.com, and it gives a bit of background of what I've said today and a whole lot of other thoughts. Thanks a lot. Enjoyed being here together.